Hello, I'm Dave Grossi. They've been called America's greatest generation. Young men, some as young as 15, who put aside the most formative years of their life to help defend freedom during World War II. Years that should have been spent going to baseball games, attending college, going out on dates, but instead they willingly put their lives on hold, put on a uniform, left their cities and towns for parts unknown, in essence saved America from the tyranny that was spreading across Europe and that had indeed come home on December 7th, 1941. This is their story. The Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that there are fewer than 1 million World War II vets still alive out of the 16 million that served during the war. And the VA also estimates that well over 400 die every day, and that by 2036 there will be no World War II vets left. You're going to meet some of these incredible people now. Listen as Staff Sergeant Bill Pace, a Purple Heart recipient, recalls his story about how he was forced to bail out of a B-17 bomber 5 miles up over Germany when his plane was struck, and then how he spent the last few months of the war in 2 POW camps in Germany. And Army PFC LLoyd Rauch, who helped liberate the infamous Dachau concentration camp, and Staff Sergeant Mario Grossi, who helped liberate the notorious Woblin concentration camp. They'll describe for you the horrors, the sights, the smells that only a veteran who's been there and done that can describe. Army hero Tech Sergeant George West, recipient of the Silver Star for gallantry, and he'll relate how his citation calls what he became a one-man patrol when his unit was almost wiped out in Germany. You'll be spellbound by Navy veteran Vic Bucket, one of only a handful of survivors of the USS Indianapolis that was torpedoed by a Japanese sub during a top-secret mission, delivering the components of the atomic bomb that helped end the war in Japan. He'll describe for you his experiences during his struggle for survival over 4 days in shark-infested waters, watching as over 600 of his crewmates drowned or were eaten alive by sharks when their ship's distress signals were ignored. Their stories will undoubtedly invoke many emotions: pride, sorrow, even anger. But as our film progresses, I'm convinced that those emotions will compel you to watch and listen. For several of these vets, it's the very first time they've related their wartime experiences, but they've all agreed to be part of this most important historical and educational project. Hear now as these heroes tell their stories of their years spent in Europe, the Pacific, or in critical duties stateside. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bonita Springs Historical Society is proud to present Bonita's Greatest Generation in their own words.
My name is LLoyd Rauch. I was private first class. I was in the 33rd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron Mechanized. I was 16 when the war started, and I went into college. I started college in January of '42, which is at age, I was still 16 at that point. So I didn't get into the Army until I was drafted, when I was 18. So I got 2 years of college in before I went into the Army. And that was interesting because there were not too many men in college with me. So I got to be on the tennis team at college. I was on the wrestling team. There were not that many men around, so I could, so I got 2 varsity letters, which I probably wouldn't have gotten if the war hadn't started. Well, basic training, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and right after that, I went to the ASTP, which was Army Specialized Training Program at Indiana University, which is great because although I was only there for 12 weeks when they canceled the program and stopped it and put everybody back into the real service, But the thing that was nice about it is Indiana treated me as a returning student when the war was over. So it was very difficult getting into places, but Indiana took me back as a former student because of that 12 weeks that I was in the Army Specialized Training Program. And I graduated from Indiana with a degree in physics, and then I went on to Purdue, got a degree in engineering, and then I went to work. When the AST program was canceled, I was sent to the 33rd Cavalry, and they sent me right to Fort Knox to radio school, and I became a radio operator. And I was a radio operator gunner in the cavalry, and very soon thereafter we went overseas. Well, we were in France, and we got there just as the Battle of the Bulge was ending. In fact, we were helpful in ending it. And we were in France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, and Austria during the war. Well, we were a reconnaissance outfit, so we were out in front of the Army. And after we left Munich, we didn't even know that Dachau was there. Sure. And we got there, we saw the barbed wire and knew immediately that it was a prison camp. But I didn't know, and none of us really knew, about concentration camps and seeing these walking dead, and then some just lying in the street and that were already dead. And it was, I'd never seen people that were so malnourished as this, and it was a scary operation. We just didn't understand it. Yeah. And the German guards had left immediately before we got there, so we just opened the gates, and they were very happy to see us. Remembering seeing people that were walking starved skeletons, and a lot of people who had already died and were lying in the street. And it was a sight that you don't want to remember too much. There was a sergeant in our outfit that opened the boxcar that was in the camp, and he opened the boxcar and bodies came out and buried him. I mean, it was an experience that you'd never want to see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then by 25 or 30 minutes after we got there, the Army followed us in. And when we saw these starved people, and we had a lot of food on the back of our armored car, we wanted to give some of it to them, and we radioed back what we saw, and they said, "Don't do that. Don't give them any food. They have to be fed by doctors or you'll kill them." And so we didn't give them the food, and but you know, we listened to what we were told. I actually got back there to Dachau a number of years later, and I was surprised because I just wanted to see what it looked like, and they had taken all the barracks down, and it was big open fields, and it was a completely different viewpoint seeing this thing as they had demolished all these barracks. They were one next to the other, and it was the only barrack they left were the officers' barracks, and they had built a museum in there, which was very well done, I think. It was completely different with the thing cleaned out than it was when we first got there. It didn't even look like the same place. Yeah. It was very soon towards the end of the war, because in Austria, alongside the Danube River, we met the Russians. And when we met the Russians, that ended the war for us, because we couldn't go any further. And we were one of the first outfits to be brought back to the United States after the war because we were scheduled to be in the invasion of Japan. And fortunately, while we were on furlough in the States, they dropped the atom bombs and we didn't have to go. Very soon thereafter, we were discharged from the Army, and I went to Indiana University and was studying physics and got my degree. And I found out by the time I got my degree that if you really want to do something in physics, you need a PhD. And I only had a bachelor's degree. So I says, okay. So I went up to Purdue and got an engineering degree, and I could do that in only 2 years. Yeah. And I was an engineer from then on. Yeah. First job was building an anti-aircraft gun. I'm trying to remember the name of it. My recollection is very poor. It was a gun that had a computer, radar, and power control all mounted on the gun. And I worked on the computer part of it. Mm-hmm. And it was very interesting. It was something that, skysweeper, yeah. Well, my kid brother was in the service after the war, but he never went overseas or anything. He was just in the States. Yeah. Probably if I was older at the time, I wouldn't have gone into cavalry reconnaissance, because if I was older, I would realize reconnaissance means you serve in front of the Army. And that doesn't sound too smart. I've spent a lot of my life doing service. I've been active in the Lions, and I could tell you many stories about that. Right now I'm a member of the Bonita Springs Lions Club. And I'm also active with the Naples Lions Club. And I've been involved with the Lions for, since 1970. And that's something that I have a passion for. Well, it was very interesting. I was glad we went. I would recommend other people to go. It's not something to be afraid of looking at, and I think they did a very good job of showing what was going on in Europe before World War II.
Hey, Lloyd, thank you very much for your service. And thank you very much for participating in this project with us, sir.
Okay, I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed this program. It's been both an honor and a pleasure to help these vets tell their story. And the Bonita Springs Historical Society welcomes your comments. I'm Dave Grossi. Thank you.